So here in the UK right now, we are celebrating Gay Pride Day. And this comes almost directly after the Gay Pride Month, which is international. So I'm sure you're all familiar with that. And then we've also had Trans Pride Day. So here in the UK, I think it's safe to say that LGBTQ culture is pretty much mainstream. It is the status quo at this point. And this is very clear this year at Pride, where you can see the updated rainbow flag, which includes both the trans colours, the blue and pink, and also black and brown, which I guess is a nod to the intersectionalists, to the people in the community that want to bring race into the equation. So now that's what Pride is about. It's all about love. This postmodern reinterpretation of love, it's kind of like the opposite of the traditional, the classical definition. It's nothing to do with kin. There's no larger cultural ties there. You know, a love for family, a love for community, a love for your nation. All of that has been completely deconstructed. It's really just a way that the social engineers define what is good. And if the LGBTQ lifestyle represents the modern ideal, kind of this multinational global homo idea of virtue, then a more traditional idea of morality, of a husband and wife, of raising children, taking on responsibility, a deeper connection with one's folk, with one's nation, these ideas are deemed hate speech. I mean, this is the corporate definition of hatred. And it's really funny because these are some core elements that make up the foundation of the West, and by proxy, the foundation of a lot of classic Western art and works that would go on to influence gaming in its infancy. Even Japanese gaming, there's this archetypal, soulful quality to classic gaming that really does speak to men. It speaks to the straight white male especially. But really, Europeans should be looking at themselves in more of this ethnic patchwork of German and Irish, Swedish, Norwegian, Anglo. There's a long and very feudal history to Europe, and you can see how the West has kind of really been undermined by this idea that we should all be lumped into this group and then defined as white people. Because you're not allowed to be proud of being a white person. I mean, that's considered literal Nazism. It's a negative identity, and it's not one that was created by quote-unquote white people. It's a critique of European culture and history. And it's a fairly irrational critique. I mean, are we supposed to ask an Irishman to take on his share of the burden of white guilt, you know? I mean, is he really responsible for the ills of colonialism? I mean, Ireland was basically crushed under the boot of the British Empire, so, you know, where would an Irishman fall on the progressive stack? Well, no, you know, we can't be going into it from that degree of resolution. It has to be just this blanket group designation of white, and with whiteness being something inherently bad. So in this modern order, I mean, the best that you can hope for as a European is to be considered an ally. And this is an ally in the intersectional sense. It's that you will always retain your privilege. So the thing you have to do is you have to constantly be signaling and reinforcing your dedication to the cause, and you will be put last. You will be valued less the further down on the progressive stack you are. So, I mean, as a straight white male, there really is no place for you amongst this intersectional, new, corporate, manufactured mainstream culture. And to me, nothing emphasizes this more than the modern incarnation of the pride flag. The fact that it's so inclusive, and it's just this rainbow, but it's also got the white and blue and pink for the trans community, but then you have the black and brown too. It's like, okay, so this flag basically just represents anti-white. I mean, because it seems like straight white people are the only group in society that are just not invited to this party. The only way that you can even get in is by just self-flagellating publicly and humiliating yourself and letting go of any notions of positive ethnic identity. But for me, as like an older millennial, I feel like I gained a lot of positive identity from gaming, from the gaming community. I guess this was back during a different time when politics were largely absent from the industry, and it was really all about just having fun, enjoying the medium. You compare that with what it's like today, where developers are just pushing this garbage on us, just constantly without any concern for the future of their IPs or potentially losing money. It's like the whole industry is in the process of being fully deconstructed, and we are being served this, again, it's this critique. It's a critique of gaming, it's a critique of the industry, and of the positive aspects of being a gamer. And I guess that's just because gaming was always too white, and it became a refuge of straight white men. This made gaming a target for the same intellectual movement that successfully deconstructed European ethnic identity. This is the pet project of the elite. So obviously over the years you've seen the corporations come into the industry, take over. You have EA buying up countless development studios, and more often than not just running them into the ground. You look at BioWare, for instance. I think they're a great example where they were making crowd-pleasing games. You had Dragon Age, you had Mass Effect, before that Jade Empire, Knights of the Old Republic. You had some classic RPGs, Western RPGs, that were universally beloved by gamers. And you just look at what's happened to BioWare now, and it's just, they only create products to extract capital and also to push this neo-Marxist political viewpoint. And I think it's a combination of, you have these millennial-aged developers coming into the industry who have really taken the full brunt of the academic push for intersectionalism. So you have these radical employees coming into the pre-established development houses, and then from the top you have a new generation of CEOs who do treat this progressive ideology as almost like a corporate religion. It's like they're in full agreement with these new radical activist millennials. So in between there you have the original developers who made these studios great in the first place, and they're the ones being crushed from the top, from the bottom, and they're in between just being crushed and forced out of the industry that they helped build. And of course, it does not help the situation when you have a journalist class who are also just as radical as the millennial employees of some of these studios. They were educated at the same universities, they've been influenced by the same ideological movement, and that gives the industry itself new priorities. It's not about creating an entertaining product anymore, or in the case of the journalist, appraising said entertainment. Now it's about the subversion of the gamer identity. It needs to be decolonized. It's about applying critical theory to what they view as a dissident subculture. It's far too white, it's far too dangerous. And all of this has been completely unnecessary. There is no reason why we can't have an industry just as good, just as creative, just as incredible as the late 90s and early 2000s. There is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be able to feel proud of this community, of this industry, and of this identity, because it's okay to be a gamer, and we are most certainly not dead.